My name is James. I'm fed up with incompetent people. My beloved wife told me this one day. I work as a hotelier. Nowadays, to eliminate gender bias, my job is also referred to as hotelier. I've been in this profession for 11 years since I was 20, making me 31 now. Even though I work for a famous hotel group, the pay isn't great. I've always loved traveling, which led me to become interested in hotel management. I studied hotel-related subjects in junior college and was lucky enough to get a job with my current group after graduating. I acquired the necessary qualifications during my studies, thinking it would be an advantage for my employment. However, once I started working, I realized that qualifications and educational backgrounds weren't crucial. Being a hotelier seems like a professional job, but once you get the hang of it, much of it is mundane tasks that anyone could do. My work shifts aren't flexible, and I often have to work late at night. Work is non-stop labor and more physically demanding than one might expect. Despite the low pay, seeing the smiles of our guests is rewarding. However, when I first started, I did feel a gap between my ideals and reality. But this job has taught me some valuable things. One is that I became proficient in Spanish. Due to many international tourists, I learned not just textbook Spanish, but also how to communicate naturally. Another thing, and most precious thing to me, was meeting and marrying my wife, Lisa. I met Lisa 3 years ago. She transferred to my workplace from a distant land. Our group, with nationwide operations, often relocates employees. Lisa is a year older than me and has a short haircut. She seemed like a reliable, mature sister figure. Her occasional smiles were incredibly charming, and I gradually became smitten with her. After a year of pursuing her, we started dating. 2 years ago, we got married. We used the hotel's venue for our wedding and received grand congratulations from everyone. It was the happiest moment of my life. Lisa and I share a hobby, soft tennis. I played for about 6 years in a small team during middle and high school. In contrast, Lisa was skilled enough to compete in national tournaments. We often played tennis together on our days off, but I never won a match against her. We frequently teamed up for doubles tournaments, but I usually held her back, resulting in early exits. Yet, Lisa always kindly supported me. Despite not winning, playing tennis with her was genuinely enjoyable. However, one sentence from Lisa shattered my happiness. Actually, I'm pregnant with Bob's child. Seeing Lisa's downcast profile, my mind went blank. Bob is the hotelier team leader at our workplace. He's a very supportive person and turns 42 this year. He also played soft tennis, and we often talked about tennis together. He celebrated our marriage more than anyone, and most importantly, he is married. Bob and Lisa had an affair. I confronted her, but she remained silent, looking down. Then, after a while, she quietly said to me, "I really wanted to have my own child." Yes, Lisa and I couldn't have children. We tried fertility treatments with no avail, but she got pregnant with Bob after just one try. "I'll pay consolation money, so I want a divorce." Lisa's selfish words left me speechless. As I stood there agape, she continued, "I'm sorry for being so selfish, but you have to understand, I desperately wanted my own child. Even though it's with Bob, I finally got pregnant. I have a duty to raise this child. I'll pay any amount of consolation money. So please, let's pretend our marriage never happened, and I want you to find a new path with someone else." "What are you talking about? I don't understand a thing you're saying, Lisa." I tried repeatedly to convince her to reconsider, but her resolve was firm. I felt a strength in her, not just as a woman but as a mother. I realized I might not be able to hold her back. Driven by intuition, I lashed out at her in anger. "You're so selfish. You always acted like you knew everything, looking down on me. I never liked that about you. I exaggerated my minor inconveniences with Lisa. The truth is I've never felt such complaints. I genuinely admired her intelligence and knowledge. But even as I became emotional, Lisa remained cool. Finally, she stood up with a tired look and a cold gaze, asking, "Are you done now? I thought you were a great partner. It's disappointing to know you felt this way." With a mocking, cold smile, she said, "Well, if I had one complaint about you, it's that you're terribly bad at soft tennis. I'm fed up with playing with someone so unskilled," and left the house leaving those words. Stunned by an abrupt goodbye, I was unable to think for a while. Soon after, Lisa and Bob resigned. Apparently, they planned to start a new business together. Bob probably had some savings, and Lisa was actually from a wealthy family, so they casually paid me consolation money and left as if nothing had happened. It's as if they're saying everything's fine as long as you pay money. Their arrogant attitude made it even more painful. Naturally, the news of Bob and Lisa's sudden resignation and our divorce spread quickly. It was clear to everyone that I was betrayed and abandoned. Poor James. Cheated on by his boss and divorced. It's like watching a soap opera. My colleagues David and Mary seemed to enjoy my messy situation as if it were a daytime drama. To distract myself from the stress, I turned to alcohol. After work, I'd wander the streets, drinking heavily. Lisa loved wine, so we often drank it together at dinner. She was more mature than me, so I even studied wine to keep up with her. When will I stop thinking about Lisa? I realized I was always searching for her presence. That's why I'm underlooked. Treated like a child. I drank more, ashamed of my maturity. Drinking myself to the point of damaging my organs was a form of self-harm. But I couldn't forget the pain of being betrayed by my loved one without the help of alcohol. I was heavily intoxicated in a bar like always, but one day, I was so intoxicated that my vision was distorted. No one would stop me anyways. Everyone just watched, entertained. In my despair, I asked the bartender for another drink. But then, suddenly, a voice from above said, "Please cancel the refill." I looked up and saw a woman standing there, looking down at me with concern. Nancy. Her name is Nancy. 1 year younger than me and a colleague at the same workplace. "James, are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine, all fine." "Really? Well, I'm gonna sit next to you if that's okay." With that, Nancy took the seat next to me. I joined the company at 20 after graduating at junior college. Nancy joined a year after me. So, we've known each other for almost 10 years now. She's usually very bright and active. Even at work, she teases me, despite being younger, always mocking me playfully. Although I found her cheeky, she was one of the few juniors I could talk to about anything. "Why didn't you talk to me about Lisa and Bob? You should have talked about these rough times with me." Nancy looked at me with serious eyes, almost appearing angry. I felt uncomfortable and looked away from her. "How could I tell you? It's such an embarrassing story, even with you." The idea of telling someone my wife was taken by my boss was humiliating. But Nancy insisted, "That's why you should tell me," and leaned in close to me, showing her earnestness. "You'll ruin your health if you keep drinking like this, James." When I muttered an apology, Nancy briefly replied, "Just keep that in mind." Then we chatted about silly things, and then found myself complaining about Lisa to her. I'll never forgive those two. It's terrible for the child, born out of an affair. Nancy nodded and listened to me, even when I spoke in a rough manner. "Well, it's not the child's fault, though." When I said that, Nancy smiled happily for some reason. "What's with that look?" "Nothing. I was just thinking about how kind you are, James." She smiled teasingly, as usual. Good grief. Always being mocked by Lisa, and now you. I was cruelly dumped, you know. She left me because we couldn't have kids, and during soft tennis, she told me she was fed up with playing with someone so unskilled. I spoke bitterly, and Nancy, looking down at me with moist eyes, said, "Shall I give it a try?" Huh. In the dimly lit bar with small orange bulbs as its light source, Nancy's expression seemed stunningly attractive. The day after, also my day off, I was out with Nancy. At the tennis court. "Hey, John." Nancy swung her racket with a shout. "You're terrible." I laughed, and she fired back, "What do you mean?" swinging her racket even more vigorously. Nancy had asked that night, "Do you want to try me as your doubles partner?" With alcohol in my system, my mind briefly wandered to the wrong idea. Embarrassed by my adolescent-like fantasies despite being a divorcee, I focused on returning Nancy's shot. She returned my balls with Narvis-like movements. "Hey, Nancy, you're pretty good." "Hee hee, maybe I could be your doubles partner after all." She smiled proudly, and I replied, "Don't underestimate soft tennis." I swung a forehand, driving the ball down the line. After my divorce with Lisa, it had been a while since I've done any physical activities. Thanks to Nancy, I was able to forget the unpleasantness during the day. From then on, Nancy and I occasionally played tennis when our shifts aligned. As a result, I drank less, and little by little, both my mind and body began to regain health. People around me even started to notice, saying I seemed a bit brighter. Indeed, I felt better physically, and I thought less about Lisa over time. All thanks to Nancy. At that time, I realized that I naturally smiled when I was with Nancy. I've always seen her as a friend, but now I see her in a different light. James, I'm excited about the upcoming soft tennis tournament. Don't hold me back, okay? Despite turning 30 this year, she clasped her hands behind her back, tilted her head, and beamed at me, and I couldn't help but find her adorable. However, it was then that I was transferred to a different hotel. My first transfer in 11 years of service. This made me a bit nervous. As I pondered over my initial greetings, I couldn't stop thinking about Nancy. I didn't want to leave her. The sooner the better to ask her. Without any hesitation, I called her out and proposed, asking her to come with me. Nancy opened her eyes. There are tears in her eyes. I had thought she would accept, but she tearfully said, "I don't deserve to marry you." Despite my attempts to understand what she meant, she wouldn't answer. Ultimately, our relationship ended there, and I faced the day of my move. One day, as I was wallowing in disappointment, I received a phone call. The name on the caller ID was Lisa. I was surprised, but now, unlike before, I had no lingering feelings. Wondering what she wanted after all this time, I picked up the phone. "What's up? Calling me like this?" I spoke coldly, but Lisa, unfazed by my attitude, greeted me as if nothing had happened, saying, "Long time no see, have you been well?" When Lisa didn't start talking, I told her I was going to hang up, but she said, "Wait, and then, I want to start over with you." I was momentarily stunned by her words. I wondered if she was joking or making fun of me, but something felt off with the way Lisa was acting over the phone. I was curious, but anything she says now is too late. I refused, saying it was impossible, but then she said, "Are you sure? You're dating Nancy now, right? That girl is bad news." "What do you mean?" Then Lisa revealed a shocking truth. Apparently, Nancy had an affair in the past with our boss, Bob. I wanted to believe it was a lie, but Nancy had said to me, "I'm not worthy of marriage." Thanks to Lisa's story, what Nancy said back then made sense. However, I said, "That's all in the past." I still wanted to accept Nancy, regardless of her past. I loved her that much. I could tell Lisa was slightly shaken by my reaction. Then, in the next moment, she started crying and said, "Then I want you to forgive me too." She went on to explain that she miscarried the child she had with Bob. Their relationship worsened. Bob had left her for another woman. She had seen Nancy and me playing tennis by chance, and having heard about Nancy's affair with Bob, she felt jealous and threatened to expose their past to me. Hearing Lisa's story, I thought how selfish it was, but I couldn't help but feel sympathy for her wanting a child she couldn't have. I knew from dating Lisa how much she loved children. "Sorry, please forgive me. I wanted a child. I really wanted one, but in the end I couldn't forget you," she said through tears. Lisa's regret over breaking up with me over the sake of children, but ending up in a bad situation, pained my heart a little. She has a big ego. She doesn't cry easily. Her crying was proof that she wasn't faking and genuinely needed help. But I shook my head. "I'm sorry, but I love Nancy." I fell for the mature and cool Lisa. "Don't make such pathetic excuses." Lisa was speechless at my words, and a silence fell. After a while, she said in her usual calm voice, "I'm sorry for showing you this embarrassing side of me, and then, I won't call again. Be happy." And with that, she hung up. I immediately called Nancy. She appeared in front of me, awkwardly as usual, and asked, "What's up?" I told her about Lisa's call and what she said about Nancy and Bob. Nancy then began to speak hesitantly. 10 years ago, I foolishly fell for Bob. He was kind to me during training. I knew he was married and dabbled with other women, but I was smitten. But before anything serious happened, she regained her sense and refused Bob's advances. So the affair Lisa thought happened between Nancy and Bob was a misunderstanding. After that, Nancy wanted a real relationship and fell for me. But since I was married to Lisa, she gave up on me. However, when Lisa and I broke up, Nancy saw an opportunity. I approached her as she bowed her head, saying, "I'm sorry," and gently held both of her hands. "You were young, and I know you're not that person anymore, so I want you to be with me. Stay by my side." Her tears dropped onto our joined hands. And then, Nancy accepted my proposal. Thus, I began a new life, walking forward with Nancy by my side. After that, I successfully transferred to a new job and started a new life with Nancy. Now, we are set to participate in a tennis tournament together. Let's go, aim for the championship. With my new doubles partner, we will keep striving forward.